The U.S. military presence in the Middle East has been a defining feature of global politics for decades. But by 2026, the United States will begin pulling out permanently. So why is the world's most powerful nation making this drastic decision? In this video, we break down the real reasons behind this historic shift and how it's going to reshape the future of the region and the world. It all started in the 1990s with the Gulf War. The U.S. had a strategic interest in the region, mainly because of its oil reserves and the need to maintain global influence. But it wasn't until the September 11th attacks in 2001 that the U.S. became deeply entrenched in the Middle East. The war on terror had begun. Fast forward to today, and the U.S. has spent over 20 years in conflicts like Iraq and Afghanistan. It's cost billions of dollars, countless lives, and a growing sense of frustration at home and abroad. But by 2026, things will look drastically different. The key factor? A fundamental shift in U.S. foreign policy. For years, American leaders have been debating the value of maintaining such an expensive and controversial presence in the Middle East. The rise of the America First movement, combined with changing global priorities, has pushed the U.S. to reevaluate its military strategy. Domestic pressures for reducing foreign intervention have intensified, with the public increasingly questioning the cost of endless wars. Another major factor? The rise of global competitors like China and Russia. The U.S. is now more focused on countering these nations' growing influence in Asia and Europe, rather than continuing its legacy in the Middle East. While the Middle East remains a hotbed of conflict, the U.S. is no longer willing to invest the same level of resources. With China's Belt and Road Initiative and Russia's assertive foreign policy, Washington has realized that its strategic interests lie elsewhere. The reality is, maintaining a military presence across the Middle East is unsustainable. The economic strain has been mounting. In 2026, with the U.S. economy still recovering from the pandemic and facing inflationary pressures, there's simply no room for endless military expenditures. Instead of pouring money into military bases, Washington is focusing on technological advancements, cybersecurity, and space, where the next era of global power will be decided. And it's not just about the US. The Middle East is also changing. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Israel are now forging new alliances with China and Russia, leaving the US less relevant to the region's strategic plans. These nations are diversifying their diplomatic and economic partnerships, reducing their dependence on Washington. The U.S. may have been the dominant power in the region, but the Middle East is now opening doors to other global players. So, what does the future hold for the Middle East after the U.S. withdrawal? Without the constant presence of American troops, the region will face new challenges. Local powers will need to step up, and the balance of power will shift dramatically. We may see a rise in regional cooperation, or an increase in competition for resources and influence. But the U.S.'s departure opens up a new chapter for the Middle East, one that will be defined by its own leaders. One of the major driving factors behind the U.S. presence in the Middle East was oil. But as global energy markets evolve, the importance of Middle Eastern oil has decreased. With the rise of alternative energy sources, fracking technologies, and greater energy independence in the U.S., the strategic need to maintain control over the region's oil resources has diminished. The shift toward renewable energy and reduced reliance on fossil fuels is reshaping the geopolitical landscape. The U.S. is now more focused on securing energy from diverse sources, rather than relying on Middle Eastern oil. This major change is one of the key reasons why the U.S. is no longer invested in maintaining a military presence in the region. Over the past decade, the Middle East has made strides toward greater political and economic stability. Countries like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar are diversifying their economies, moving away from oil dependency, and investing heavily in infrastructure and technology. Regional military forces are becoming more capable, with nations like Saudi Arabia and the UAE expanding their defense capabilities. With these improvements, the Middle East is increasingly able to handle its own security and political matters. The US no longer feels the need to play the central role it once did in maintaining order, and local powers are stepping in to fill that gap. The region's growing self-sufficiency is one of the driving forces behind America's decision to withdraw. The US leaving the Middle East in 2026 is not just a military decision, it's a reflection of changing global dynamics, shifting priorities, and the evolving nature of power. It's a reminder that nothing stays the same, and the world, especially the Middle East, is constantly evolving. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more geopolitical insights from GeoVibe TV.